Today's training session is on thermostat thinking. This is the trigger of when you go over and under your standard of living, your values, etc., and you come back. It's why a lot of people build relatively the same over and over again, or will always be in the same range. And it's literally like when the room gets too hot or too cold, the thermostat will kick in, or heat the room up, or cool the room up, and it's always trying to keep in the same level. So this is how you identify your own thermostat thinking, using one of my experiences where that absolutely happened, and sure. Thermostat thinking. Thermostat thinking is this. Well, the reason it's called thermostat is because when a room gets too hot or too cold, in our instance in this office, too fucking hot, right? It will go to a certain level, and then it will trigger it back. Okay, and it will keep the room at 17, 22, or in Oka's world, at 29,000 degrees to keep her still too cold, right? But the thought process is you have that in your mind until you raise the temperature, if you wish, or raise your bar, right? Good example is, in last business I worked in, what was good in that business, you were one of the top billers if you hit 200k, okay? And it was like, right, if you get to 200,000, you're in the top biller, that's what success looks like. There was, I think it was 10 people in the top 10 of the company, and there was 100 plus people. I'm not saying it's the same now, but that's what it was when I was there. So really good indication for me is my bar got raised as soon as I joined that business to 200k was good. In the first 6 months of joining that company, I built up just over 150,000. In the remaining 6 months of that, 60 or 58,000 or something like that, right? 150k first 6 months, 58,000 next 6 months. Next year, build 210 or 12. And then the year before that, I was only there for 6 months, but I built 110 or whatever it was, right? Thermostat thinking, okay? All I did was I did enough to get to where I needed to be, and then the thermostat kicked in, bang, you go and stick it at 200k. This all comes in also with limiting beliefs of, I'm not good enough, I don't need to do any more than this, all I want to be is the best, all I'm going to do is put the amount of effort in, but also one of my values, as I've just shared with you, is I'm always the hardest worker. That's ironic, isn't it? So there must have been an area of slack off or an area of focus on different things. I would argue that I focused on my leadership and management. Looking back now, fuck me, I don't know what I was doing. But I could argue, oh, well, my deal didn't come off and this didn't come through and the next 6 months was really tough. Bullshit. You're 150k, you should have done another 150k and banged in 300 grand at the very least. Or you could argue you should have done more. So there's loads of different circumstances that throw things out. I'm not saying here, preaching, guys, you've all got thermostat thinking and I don't. I also have thermostat thinking. And it's the level that you go up to that then changes it. In another recruitment business, you get to 100k and suddenly you're a hero. You're like, my God, I'm at the top of the organization. I used to work for a business where that was the case, okay? And then next year you do 100k. The year after that you do 100k. You should be better at the job, but your thermostat thinking is keeping you at the level of which you are accustomed to operating in. And then everything changes. I think I work hard, and then you go and sit next to Michael Jordan, and then you're like, fuck me, I don't work hard. My mindset is rock solid, and I've got a top-level mindset, and then you go and have a conversation with David Goggins. And if anybody's seen the video that's gone on about David Goggins, Elon Musk lands on Mars. He's got Joe Rogan with him. I think he's got a load of other guys that are famous with him. And then out comes from behind a mountain is fucking David Goggins, just running along saying he's just run 100 and whatever million miles to Mars. And then Joe Rogan goes, where are you going? And he goes, I'm off to Jupiter. So fuck you guys, runs off and then shouts, stay hard. And then off he goes. And everyone else is wearing oxygen suits and everything else. And of course, Goggins is not. So that level of thinking of, right, my standard is currently here and I feel I've got a high standard. And if everything goes above that, you'll bring yourself into it. It's not just about earnings. The earnings is the main one that most people talk about from a thermostat thinking perspective, but it's all sorts of different levels in your life. I start overworking, and then my thermostat thinking will begin to rechange that because I need to fucking famous quote at the moment, work-life balance. But I need to work-life balance. I need to balance everything out, right? One person's high standard of the gym is 2 days a week. Another person's, if you sit down with a rock and he's like, I go 2 times a day, right? Everyone's standard is different. And when your standards sit with somebody else and you're like, shit, I haven't got that standard, your thermostat raises and then the game changes. Anybody who's joined this business usually gives the feedback of some level of my standard has improved. I thought I worked hard before is usually the indication I get. Now I know what really working hard is like. And then I'm like, well, go sit next to Michael Jordan and see how hard that guy worked to become the best in the world at what he did. Okay, how hard Haaland had to work to become the level that he's got to. How hard Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi have had to work to get to where they're at. If you look at any of the stories of them, is they're in the first, they're out last. I think one of the comments of Cristiano Ronaldo when he went to Saudi Arabia was that one of the guys came out and said, we thought we worked hard beforehand. This guy's fucking relentless. Was it Rio Ferdinand? It wasn't Rio Ferdinand, but I think it was Rio Ferdinand that told the story about when Cristiano Ronaldo was at Man United and people started to toe up earlier. What did Cristiano Ronaldo do? He started showing up at 7, so the rest of the guys started showing up at 7, and he was like, fuck you, I'll show up at 5. And it just became a competition, right? Cristiano Ronaldo, they played ping pong in the office, and Cristiano Ronaldo got beat by everybody. Within 2 weeks, he was the best in the office. Why? Because he got a fucking ping pong coach to teach him how to play ping pong so he could be the absolute best, not in the office, but in the football club. It's that level of standard of thinking as where's his thermostat? His thermostat is set at, I'm the fucking best at anything, and it doesn't matter what it is, I will always be there. That was his thermostat level. Okay? He might not have been, obviously the best dressed and whatever else. Certainly wasn't, if you see a picture of Cristiano Ronaldo starting, Cristiano Ronaldo now, hellfire, that guy's had to work them. But it's what was his thermostat and what is your thermostat to where your trigger is. Is it high at where you want it to be? Does it reflect who you are? Does it reflect where you're at? Or does it trigger when you're running for something and is it stopping you hitting your goal? Because it stopped me hitting my goal and it still continues to stop me hitting my goal. Which is why I find things like what most people say, why do you listen to motivational bullshit? I was like, because Tim Grover's absolutely phenomenal. And if anybody hasn't read either of Tim Grover's books or both of those books, they're fucking excellent. And they make you think, shit, these guys are operating at a different level. My thermostat goes up. My thermostat goes up again. The thermostat raises. And then you operate at that level. But it's thinking, do I do a certain amount of work and then switch off? Okay? It can work the other way of where do I do too much and do I ever consume myself and I don't, do enough outside of the workplace. But as this is recruitment focused, let's focus on that. But that's really worth thinking of when does your thermostat kick in to say, in essence, you've already achieved your goal, you're already doing better than you were, you're already there where you wanted to be, and you're not where you wanted to be. You haven't hit the goal that you say, I'll achieve, but your thermostat kicks in. I'll give you a bloody good example that every single one person around this table, including me, can think about, other than the one I've just shared. Health and fitness. Going to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym and I will be renowned for knowing and going 2 times, 3 times a week. And I will do everything in my power to go for that. And then three weeks down the line, it's like, oh, fucking hell, can't be asked. Right? Because the thermostat's kicked in. You didn't used to go 3 times a week. You've got to the age of whatever you are now and you've survived in life. And now I'm going to trigger that back in and we're going to go none. Because we used to go none. Whereas one's pointless, because what's the point in going once? It's better than nothing. Right? But none. And we'll go back to that again. Whereas somebody, their thermostat is like, well, I go 7 times a week. And if I go 5 times a week, then it's car crash. Make sense?